The Dallas Stars opened up a Texas-sized can of you-know-what against the Minnesota Wild once again. Let's celebrate this dominating performance next on Locked On Stars.
Your Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer, 105 Through the Fan, and play-by-play voice of the Chippewa Steel. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. Down goes Wallstedt. The Dallas Stars put up a touchdown on the Minnesota Wild. They dominate once again, back-to-back wins against Minnesota. A 7-2 victory last night at the American Airlines Center to wrap up the season series. Where to begin? I have so many things to jump into here on today's episode. Joe Pavelski continues to climb the ranks in terms of U.S.-born scorers. I'll let you know where he sits. And Dallas continues to try to catch Winnipeg and Colorado, who are not slowing down. Can Dallas catch them here before the end of the season? Try to get home ice advantage. But oh my goodness, we have to talk about this dominating win on home ice. But first, today's episode is brought to you by Jase Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jase case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50+ infections. Get yours today at jasemedical.com and use code LOCKEDON to get $20 off your order. That's JASE medical.com. Well, the Dallas Stars gave a rude awakening to Jesper Wallstedt, making his first career NHL start, and Dallas unleashed one of the best offenses in the National Hockey League on him last night. 7 goals, and it came from everybody. This Stars team just has so much depth, and Pete DeBoer put on a systematic masterpiece against the Minnesota Wild in the season series. They outscored them 19-3 in 3 games. 19-3. I mean, just complete and utter destruction. 2 goals from the top line, 2 goals from the second line. Niels Lundqvist gets his first of the season. The fourth line, Sam Steele chips in at the end of the game with his 4th of the year against his former club. I mean, up and down the lineup. And to preface this as well, Minnesota did not show up for the first 40 minutes. I mean, it was a no-show. They pretty much gave up, to be completely honest. There was no life in the Wild in the first 40 minutes. Scott Wedgewood was hanging around. Great to get him back in between the pipes. He looked fresh. He needed the rest. And of course, Matt Murray with a wonderful shutout on Monday. Wedgewood comes back. He's sharp when he needed to be. And then he was just kind of hanging back and having some fun. He only faced 10 shots in the first 2 periods. And then Minnesota had some life in the third period, but that just unleashed Dallas a bit more because they were like, oh, okay, now you want to play? I guess we'll continue to run up the score here tonight. They finished with 34 shots on goals. They go 0 for 2 on the power play. And I also want to say, you get outscored 19-3 in a season series, and I have to hear complaining about referees and the Stars diving. Give me a break. Give me a break. Unreal. Oh, just complete domination. Minnesota really didn't show up. I felt honestly horrible for Jesper Wallstedt. That is a tough first start in Dallas against a really high-scoring team, and your team really did no favors for you in front of you. But Hintz now has 17 goals on the season. Tyler Seguin continues his dominant year. 6 goals in his last 6 games, 14 points in his last 14. Marchment has another multi-point night. He has 4 multi-point nights in his last 5 now. I mean, Marchment is having a career year. He already surpassed his last season total in points with a couple of assists tonight. Duchesne gets his 12th on a fortuitous bounce. Pavelski's goal was an absolute snipe. I don't care how old you are, you'll never not be able to do that. And he goes right upstairs, blocker side on Wallstedt. Robertson now has goals in 3 straight. It's great to get him going. I mentioned it last weekend. It just felt, or this week even, it just felt like he was going to get on a surge here, and he absolutely did. Taking a look at hockey stat cards, the Stars had the top 5 nightly skaters. And hockey stat cards gives nightly skaters, and of course, it's the game scores at the end of the night between all the teams, and they'll put the top 5 skaters up there on a little board. Dallas had all 5 of them, at least right now. Sam Steele, Niels Lundqvist, Mason Marchment, Ryan Suter, and Esa Lindell. Sam Steele leads the way, 3.38 game score for Mr. Sam Steele. He was great. Niels has played really strong in his last few games, especially against the Wild. The defense didn't have a ton of pressure either. I mean, Minnesota did not put up a huge fight. They made it real simple for Dallas to break out of their own zone. They didn't have a forecheck. They got everything they wanted off the rush. They got everything they wanted in the offensive zone. So you can't take a whole lot of this and apply it down the road. Minnesota's in a tough spot. They're missing 2 of their best defensemen. They're missing their best goal scorer. They just don't have a lot. They've now lost, 5 out of the last 6 or 6 out of the last 7, whatever it is. It's very bleak on the Wild side of things. But it doesn't change the fact that the Stars came out and showed that they're the better team. It was clear. And they do that once again. Just great stuff all the way around. You don't have to tax anybody. Wedgewood's going to be really fresh for the weekend. Lindell ends up playing 17 minutes at 5-on-5. In terms of total time on ice in all situations, Harley led the way with 22 minutes. It was really even across the board because Pete DeBoer was able to do that. And as I mentioned, a systematic masterpiece in this season series from Pete DeBoer. Just rolling 4 lines, getting scoring. Your defense continues to lock down the front of the net. They were so good in the neutral zone against Minnesota. They could not do anything off the rush. They forced Minnesota to dump in, and they just allowed Dallas to break out of their zone cleanly 95% of the time, and they put up 7 on them. I mean, there's not a whole lot to say other than Dallas is just way better at this point in time. And of course, Minnesota's a shell of themselves with the squad they're throwing out there right now. But look, Dallas is without Otter. Dallas is without Miro. Everybody's hurt. Everybody's dealing with injuries. That's just how it goes. and nobody feels sorry for you. Nobody is going to feel sorry for you. And I mean, just huge strides and big wins too. That's a hard thing to do, even though Minnesota didn't make it very hard to beat a team twice in just as many days after shutting them out in their own building. You thought they were going to come out and have some pushback in them, and you kind of just took the will out of them. Frankly, you stuck it in and twisted and made it really hard for Minnesota to gain any sort of confidence moving forward. But Pavelski now has 16 goals on the year. Tyler Seguin, man, I mean, what a season he's having. What a season Mr. Seguin is having. On pace for about 34 goals now on the season. It'll be his first 30-goal campaign in about 5 years. And I've touched on it this week. He's finally healthy, like fully healthy. And with the introduction of Matt Duchesne, that line is just so fun to watch. Marchment has become so good, and he fits in so perfectly with his ability to be physical and just make plays off the rush. A beautiful little pass to Hintz, who's just screaming down the slot, and he's able to beat Wallstedt. Awesome stuff all the way around. as I mentioned, the Stars ended up with, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys with over a game score of 2. And I'm not even going to jump into all these numbers because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. They just completely hammered them. But the Stars had a great night up and down the lineup, obviously. What a season series, outscoring the Minnesota Wild 19-3 in 3 games. Some more information for you. Jason Robertson, of course, playing in his 250th game, now has 275 points with that goal in the 3rd period. Give that man an all-star. Of course, the leading scorer on the Stars this season. Here's a general recap of the first 2 periods to just show how dominating Dallas had been. Offensive zone possession time, 5.5 minutes for Dallas, just under 3 for Minnesota. Puck possession, puck in the offensive zone time, 17:40 for Dallas, just over 13.5 for Minnesota. 13 shots on net from the slot for Dallas, 10 high danger scoring chances, 6 odd man rushes, 30 controlled entries, 56% puck battle win percentage. You name it, the Dallas Stars did it. And you put up a touchdown. Thanks for coming, Minnesota. Smell you next season. Hate to be that harsh, but that's what happens. Let's move on and shed some light on Joe Pavelski, Captain America, with that sizzling wrister he had last night. It's moving him up into some very good company. I'll tell you more in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Jase Medical. I know we come to sports to escape from some of the crazy realities of real life, and sometimes it feels like we're not in real life when you watch games like last night. But let's go ahead and talk a minute about preparing for real life. According to the FDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics like amoxicillin right in the middle of the worst flu season in over a decade. This is scary. I can't imagine a more helpless feeling if you have a significant other, somebody you love that got sick, and you can't get life-saving medication because of a supply chain an issue. Thankfully, you can be okay because of Jase Medical. The Jase case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics to treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, including UTIs, respiratory infections, skin infections, among others. This stuff could happen to anybody, as you know. Visit jasemedical.com and complete your physician encounter. It will be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medications will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. It's never been more important to be prepared than today. Go ahead, get you a Jase case, antibiotics that could save your life. It's never been more important. Go to jasemedical.com and use offer code LOCKEDON to get $20 off your first order. Before I shed some more light on Joe Pavelski, be sure to follow Locked On Sports Today on YouTube. Go over there and subscribe, the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. It is here for you 24/7, as I said, covering the top sports stories with local experts. I don't know what that little accent I have that keeps happening. Sloven, I don't know. I have to clear that up. Anyways, I'm going to be very clear about what I'm about to tell you right here. Joe Pavelski with another goal last night, his 16th of the season. That was goal number 465. He's scored on 150 different goaltenders in his career. That is second most among active players, just trailing Alex Ovechkin. Sidney Crosby's right behind him, Evgeny Malkin, and Jeff Carter. But goal number 65 as well continues to inch him closer to the top 5 in U.S.-born scorers in the National Hockey League. He trails Pat LaFontaine by 3 now. And LaFontaine, of course, played with Buffalo for a number of years, a wonderful goal scorer. Joe Pavelski is right behind him now. He's tracking down Joe Mullen, who's in the top 5 currently with 502. Pavelski probably won't get there unless he goes on a complete tear, but a few more seasons and he could find himself comfortably in the top 5 in goals among U.S.-born players. He ranks 8th in terms of points. He's behind Joe Mullen by 27 in that department. He has 1,037 career points. So he's inching his way up, and he has a chance to maybe crack the top 5. To get past Jeremy Roenick's going to be very, very tough. Roenick's at 1,216. Pavelski is just over 1,030. So we'll see. Joe's not slowing down, it seems like, anytime soon. He may have to play another 5 years, maybe 5 to 6 years, to get 200 more points. I'm not going to put it past him, but that may be a stretch. But he certainly is in good company. If you're in the company of Patrick Kane and Modano, Roenick, Keith Tkachuk, any of those guys, you're doing something right. He just passed Doug Weight not too long ago, who had 1,033 points. Excuse me. So, of course, Joe Pavelski has been such a revelation for this team since he came over in the offseason a few seasons ago. Just such a great leader. But, man, he needs that Stanley Cup. A surefire Hall of Famer, I think, in my opinion. Just watching him work day in and day out, what he's done for the game of hockey in San Jose and now in Dallas. He's just missing that Mr. Stanley. And hopefully the Dallas Stars can do that for him here this season. But Joe's having himself quite a year. It's honestly astounding what he's doing, because he had really never had this type of production, even in San Jose. And of course, you get Joe as well because you moved on from Matt Zuccarello. I think a lot of people forget that. If you don't, or if you re-sign, Zuccarello, you don't get Pavelski. That was kind of your trade-off, because Zuccarello, I believe, wanted like a 5-year deal, and you didn't want to give that to Zook, who, of course, was aging. Pavelski, very similar, an older player. He was in his mid-30s when he signed his first contract with Dallas, and there was like, okay, yeah, this is a good veteran signing, but how productive is he really going to be? And oh my goodness, you don't get Pavelski if you re-sign Zuccarello. Since he's been with the Stars, 51 points in 2020-21, and that was in the 56-game season. 81 points in 21-22. 77 last season. He already has 36, and we're about to hit the halfway point on Friday. So he's just under a point per game player. He hasn't hit 30 goals yet in a season with Dallas. I think he's going to get there this year. He's on pace to surpass that. He had 28, which was his season high for the Stars, or career high with the Stars. He had 38 in San Jose in 2018-19. And of course, he's just been a power play magician for Dallas. And he already has 8 power play goals this season. So that's half of them. And I mean, just continues to do so many great things. It's not just the goal scoring ability. It's his ability to adapt himself in a game that continues to move quicker. He finds a way to get better in front of the net, winning faceoffs, facilitating. He makes Hintz and Robertson better. Robertson and Hintz make him better. It's so fun to watch that top line at full strength and flying around. These last 2 weeks have been vintage top line for the Dallas Stars, and they need him. They need him to be this way. And when you get production up and down the lineup like they have been really all season, from your fourth line, from Duchesne, the Ben Johnston line, which hasn't even been astounding recently, you could say, and I'm not trying to be critical of them in any facet, because they were really good last week and were kind of the only bright spot in a few of the games that the Stars were playing. But yeah, man, Joe Pavelski inching his way closer to top 5 for the amount of goals by U.S. born scorers. How about that? So great to watch excellence night in and night out. I think we're so lucky to have somebody like number 16 in the Dallas Stars organization just willing his way and willing the Stars into great play and hopefully a deep playoff run come the springtime. Okay, let's look ahead a bit with this Dallas Stars squad and what the real challenge is at hand. Can you track down the Colorado Avalanche and Winnipeg Jets? Let's discuss that next. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Sleeper. We're almost halfway to the season. Halfway point, I should say. Stars fans, there's certainly a lot of highs and lows, but regardless of where the Stars are in the current standings, I want to remind you that you can win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is the number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you have to do is pick studs like the McDavids, the McKinnons, who are just point per game players putting up ungodly numbers, it feels like, in the National Hockey League. And if you pick more or less on certain sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus minus in any given game, if you correctly predict the outcome of 8-player stats, you could win 100 times your bet on Sleeper. You heard me correctly, Stars fans. 100 times your bet on daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention, nail those picks, and you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL, and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and with location availability. So the Stars currently sit at third place in the Central Division after last night's win. 53 points in 40 games, with the Avalanche and Jets winning consistently here over the last 2 weeks. The Jets are 9-0-1. The Avalanche are 7-2-1. They continue to be just so good, and they've kind of lengthened that gap. But Dallas, of course, is hanging around. And as Pete DeBoer mentioned a few weeks ago, if you're an everydayer, you heard the clip I played with Pete DeBoer, and the question he answered, I should say, was about Nils Lundkvist, but he mentioned his priority is getting this team the top playoff spot to get the best seeding possible come playoff time. So he wants to win the Central Division, and a good start is beating these teams head to head. They have beat Winnipeg a couple of times. The Avalanche games have been a few heartbreakers where you went up 3-0. You blew that lead. You were up too late and you blow that one as well. But they have to close the gap, and they're going to need some help from some other teams around the league. The division is still way up in the air. This is not over by any stretch. Winnipeg completely collapsed last season at the end of February and pretty much the entire month of March. Remember, they were number one in the division until, I believe, February, almost for the majority of the season, completely tanked and ended up in a wild card spot. Colorado is going to be good, but also Colorado is playing their top guys in a godly amount. And I mean a lot. Like McKinnon's getting over 20 minutes. Makar, of course, is getting over 20 minutes. Rantanen's up there. They're pushing their guys to the limit. Who knows how long that's going to last? They're going to have to make decisions at the deadline. They need some forward help because that's a lot of minutes for top guys to be playing constantly and consistently. You got to have some juice left come playoff time. That's what's really nice about the Stars' depth and ability to have 13 forwards that can play, and you can just interchange a few of them every once in a while to give some guys some night offs, because you got to be healthy is one thing, and you got to be fresh. That plays a lot into making a deep playoff run. You got to be healthy. Hopefully the Stars can get here healthy soon. Miro should be back in about a week, I would say. Otter may be ready as close to the weekend. Otherwise, I think against the Kings could be his next start next week. You gotta take 4 points this weekend on Friday, Saturday. You got a Saturday matchup against the Preds and Blackhawks. You take 4 points, man. You jump right back into the conversation. You're still within striking distance, and that's with Wedgewood in between the pipes. That's now without Miro Heiskanen for 4 games. You got fortunate. Minnesota was pretty much down and out of the count before they even arrived in Dallas yesterday. But they took advantage of it, and you got to be happy with that. You got LA, you got Philadelphia, and New Jersey next weekend. So you got some really good teams there. Those are 2 teams that are in the playoff conversation. New Jersey probably should be. They're having a down year. So there's a lot of ground to be made up here in the month of January, which is good news. And this division is up in the air. Winnipeg will continue to, I guess, scorch the entire league in this month of January. I don't see it happening. I don't see it holding up. I really don't. They did this last season, not to this magnitude. The 12-game point streak they've had? I don't think they've allowed over 3 goals, or at some point they had a stretch where they didn't allow over 3 goals for like 25 straight games. Hellenbuck's going to get tired because that guy's being worked to death. Of course, I'm over-exaggerating there, but he plays a lot. I don't see that holding up very, very long. Who knows with Colorado if they continue to push their top guys night in and night out. Stars are in a real nice position. They're in a really, really good spot. Within striking distance, they have some ground to make up. They're starting to roll here. Maybe this Minnesota season series, at least this week, gives them some confidence. Now you got to play a few teams with some fight, you would think, on Friday and Saturday. Very, very important back-to-back on this weekend. I'm excited to take it all in. You got the Preds on Friday. You got the Blackhawks on Saturday. Good stuff. Oh my goodness. What a game yesterday. Wow. It's hard to say a lot about that. Minnesota just didn't show up, and Dallas ran them out of the rink. Your top nightly skaters in the National Hockey League, all 5 of them were Dallas Stars. Sam Steele, Niels Lundqvist, Mason Marchment, Ryan Suter, and Esa Lindell. All righty, well, that wraps up the season series against the Minnesota Wild, outscoring your rival 19-3 in 3 games. Be sure to check out Locked On Sports Today on YouTube, the first ever 24/7 streaming channel. Top sports stories in the world with our local experts. Be sure to subscribe. Subscribe to Locked On Stars. Never miss an episode. We are rolling this week, Stars fans. Thank you to all you everydayers out there. Follow me on the Twitterverse at JoeyTheJet19. Throwing out content on there all the time, or just really yapping a lot. But sometimes I feel like it's needed, okay? You got to release some of your emotions on Twitter. Never bad things, though. I like to keep it very PG, pretty positive, as I do here. Besides the episode after the Avalanche OT loss, I was PO'd, if you couldn't tell. All righty. Well, Stars fans, thank you for another great day. Appreciate all your comments, your engagement. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and we will see you tomorrow on Friday to wrap up this week of Locked On Stars. So long, Stars fans.